I'm now delighted to introduce the second speaker, and the topic is building agile organizations, partnering through adaptive leadership. And to present this, we've got Namrata Gill Tyagi. Namrata is Vice President Human Resources at Dr. Reddy's laboratory. She has been with Mahindra before she came in here, has managed the, she's also, she has a very, very illustrious CV here. So I'm going to pick and choose a couple of things. She was managing organizational effectiveness, talent management, and leadership development earlier. At Dr. Reddy, she heads the corporate HR function and handles compensation, benefits, performance management, HR technology, and campus engagement, among others. She is do you want me to tell them your favorite books? Great by Choice, Dissolve the Box. I'm going to pick these so that in case you want to look up these books at some point in time. But essentially, Namrata is a very, very outstanding HR learning OD professional, has a very, very illustrious background, is a great person. So I encourage you to be able to interact with her on her table at some point in time. And we're really delighted that she accepted to speak on behalf of Dr. Chandrasekhar, or in place of Dr. Chandrasekhar. And I think it's very brave of you to pick this up at such a last minute to be able to come in and speak, and we're delighted you agreed to do that. So ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Namrata Gill.
Thank you so much. Just before I start, I've been a member of LNOD in Mumbai, and Sujay has been doing an outstanding job. I've attended most of them, no, except the insane early morning ones at SR House. So those were really difficult ones. But most of them we had in Mahindra Towers, which was a little more central. So we've done all that. While you interact with all of us, please interact with Sujaya. She's one of the most outstanding OD professionals that I've ever met, a wonderful person and a very dear friend. She writes well, she speaks well, and I don't know if you get a chance to do the annual one, which we did in Mumbai. It was a spectacular event, unlike any other HR event that I've ever attended. So with that, I really encourage all of you to come more. I absolutely enjoyed the Mumbai for 5 years. I've been to most of them. Maybe have missed a month or two in between. And Mahindra was a great partner with them where I used to work earlier. So now I'll start. How do I know the 17 minutes thing? I'll keep a...
So at 15 minutes, we'll give you a...
Sure, that's great. Yeah. Sure, great. Thanks, Gaurav. Thank you, Sujay. So I'm going to talk about building the agile organization and adaptive leadership. I hope I'm as good as our previous speaker, and I am doing Chandra justice, who you missed. So I'll start with an assumptions that agile organizations are supposed to be simple. The moment you introduce complicatedness in the organizations no longer remain agile. Is that a fair assumption to start with? So I want to talk about three things: simple, complex, and complicated. Simple is okay. Complex is okay because complex can be broken into simple, but complicated is not. And most of the organizations that you and I work in, because they've grown over the time, have become complicated. Whether we admit it internally or whether we admit it externally, but the truth remains that they have become complicated. And there's a need to simplify the organization. I want to talk about symptoms. How do you know that organization is not agile? How do you come to know at some point of time the organization is not agile, and what is the role of leadership to adapt to make sure the organization is agile? You've heard these terms, too many meetings. Have you heard it in your organization? The term too many meetings, there are too many meetings, we waste too much time in meeting. Have you heard of slow decision making? So I send it to him for an approval, he sends it to his boss, and somewhere it is lying, and then I have to go and walk up to the person and say, hey, what do we do about it? Decision could be as much as a travel approval, an international travel approval, or it could be something like launching a product in that particular time. But the decision making slow is a symptom. The second symptom which I want to talk about is the meeting I already spoke, but the third one which I want to talk about is silo working. So R&D is not talking to marketing on when they want to launch. R&D works on their own deadlines and marketing is working on their own deadlines for launch. And this happens across, right? It doesn't happen here. The other good example is manufacturing and quality. And this is a classic example in manufacturing organization. In services organization, it's the pre-sales, delivery, and the sales organization, if you take IT services organization. So it happens continuously. The last symptom, which I'm just going to talk about few, and there are many more, is about duplicate working. A lot of organizations have duplicate work. And if you just take the classic HR example, there's a central function, and then there's a BU, and BUs also have a central function in HR, right? So there's a learning function centrally, and there's a learning function in the businesses. Or there's a, let's say, recruitment function centrally, and this micro recruitment function. So there's a duplicate of work happening in the organization, which slows down the organization. Hence, the organizations don't remain agile. Now, I want to talk about why does this happen. These are symptoms, these are outcomes. You've all seen it happening in the organizations. Why does this happen? The first thing is that, and there are many reasons, I'm just picking few of them to talk about, is that what happens, the organization are very conscious of entry-level hiring so that they keep the base same and the senior level. But the bulk and the weight is put in the middle management. And there's too much middle management being added. The managers are promoted. Sometimes they get promoted because they've spent 3 years. And you had those conversations, right? I'm due for promotion, right? Or I'm due for promotion. Or a junior level guy leaves and we hire a senior level guy to replace him, right? So what we do is we increase the middle management so the decision increases. Then I want to talk a little bit about layers. So there's something called levels. That means you have 1, 2, L1, L2, L3 levels. And there's something called layers in the organization. Levels are okay because in India, everybody wants a promotion, so you can create an artificial level. Layers are not. When I say layers, it means CEO has one reportee, another reportee, another reportee. These are layers, right? They are not levels. So while you can have levels, but you are not going to have layers. Layers take away the flatness of the organization. Hence, the agility of the organization disappears. So if you want to build an agile organization as a leader of the organization, you need to be conscious. You can have as many levels as you want, but don't have too many layers. Then the span of control. So we feel very good in giving people a responsibility. Okay, I'll give you one reportee. It's our way of rewarding people, right? If you've grown, you get a... So what happens in an organization? The span of control is very low, 2 reporting to 3 and all that. But you are adding a span of control. The manager has to do some work. So what he'll do, he'll stall. He will say, okay, let me approve this. You say, okay, I'll keep you in the loop. So all this decision making and the speed of the organization slows down because of it. We also have something called thin chains. Thin chains are the killer, right? If you see an organization, the thin chains are the biggest killer. And when I say thin chain, it is one person reporting one person has one reportee, or maybe 2 reportees. So any chain across the organization, starting from the highest level to the lowest, if it has 1 or 2 reportees, you are creating a thin chain. And thin chains are a killer for agility of the organization. And as a leadership, you need to constantly monitor. And this is not something you can put a rule. An organization needs to be constantly monitored, constantly seen, so that we can get rid of thin chains. Are you with me? Am I speaking too fast? No? The second thing for leadership is all about capabilities and competencies, and in the end, they are about behaviors. So I'm talking about two principles of behaviors that we want to talk about. The first principle is that we all know, and we all work with it, that behaviors drive performance. All our performances are driven by behaviors, right? And the second is behaviors are rational. They are not irrational. There's some rational to some behaviors. So in an agile organization, when you want to make an agile organization, you need to change the behaviors to change the rational, which means that different behaviors have to come in play in case you want to change. And we'll talk a little bit about how would you change these behaviors. Are you with me? So for example, let me take an example. What are the organization levers? If you talk of organization levers, we have structures, processes, systems, overlays, the communication layers, and all those. These are the organization levers. However, how the organization levers get manifested in the organization is through you have actors, you have goals, you have resources, you have constraint, and all this leads to behavior. Now, when we want to make an agile organization, what we do, and we do it all wrong as a leadership for the organization, especially as human resources leadership for the organization. What we do, we try to change the levers, we change the structures, we change the processes, we change the systems. That doesn't lead to a behavioral change. The behavioral change will come by goals, the constraints, the resources, and the actions. So if we change organization lever, that alone will not lead to results. After changing the organization levers, you have to attack the behavior. What is the leadership role? And I want to talk practically. It was all nice gyan and it could be contributed to another organization. Now let's talk practically. The first thing that leaders need to do is understand what people on the ground really do. And I want to spend a minute. Does a CEO know what a person at ground does? Or even the CEO, like a functional head, does he or she know what a person on the ground is doing? When I talk about it, the person on the ground is doing, I want to talk about two things. First is, it is very easy to have a job description, a role description, right? Everybody has a nice job description, a nice role description. And I'm not talking like in manufacturing, they do job content studies or time and motion studies. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about like marketing people do inciting, right? Have you seen, and I was in Mahindra and they used to do these insights on what color of the car is more popular. So they'll go and talk to 1,000 consumers, listen and listen and listen and listen more. So that kind of leadership has to adapt to listening. What is the person on the ground really doing? Which means I have to understand, for example, how much time I'm spending in reviews. How much time I'm spending making my boss's presentations, right? How much time I'm doing in the time that actually doesn't add up to my job before even making the changes. So this is the first leadership role in an agile organization that you need to play. Understand what are people on ground actually doing. Not through mails, not through job description, through interviews, and you will be astonished to find that it doesn't sometimes have 10% congruence with the role description or the goal sheets. It's actually absolutely different what you end up doing and what you actually are doing. The second thing in agile organization that a leadership needs to do is the integrators have to be reinforced. For example, the interface with sales to marketing. For example, the interface of marketing to R&D. For example, the interface of manufacturing to sales. If these interfaces are broken and these integrators are broken, there's no way that your organization will become agile. The point is, how is the baton handed over? You've all seen relay races, right? Why does a team win or lose in a relay race? When the baton is not handed properly. So is R&D handing the baton well to marketing? Is marketing doing the baton well to sales? Till you keep reinforcing the integrators as a leadership, your organization may never be agile. You'll never get there. This is my favorite. I think we just need to increase the power in the organization. And when I say power, power is very centralized. And in many organizations, you will say, let's say IT services organization, I'm sure Harsh will be smiling when I say that power is with the sales guy and the business development guys. They go to the customer, they give a commitment, and that's it. And the delivery team slogs and slogs to make it happen. The point I'm making it that can you increase the powers for the delivery team? What is the behaviors that you want to drive? That means when they go to make the sales, can you take the delivery guy with you? And when they're giving the timelines, let the delivery guy give the timelines. So what you have done, you've increased the power. The power is, while the sales guy has the power, you've also increased the power with the business development guy or the sales team. So constantly increasing the power is one of the best ways to make the organization agile. You'll not waste time in decision making, you'll not have silos, you'll avoid duplicate work, and you'll not have too many meetings, because you have just gone ahead and increased the power. Second principle is reciprocity. So sales goal sheet has sales, but R&D goal sheet has, in our organization, number of filings. So there's no sales goals for the organization. If the reciprocal behaviors are not done, and if they are not done properly, you will always find lack of agility. complicated organization, complex processes, and you will lose these advantages of simplicity and agility that you want to harness all the time. One of the things adaptive leadership needs to do, and we just do once a year in the communication meet, is show the future. How are you showing the future to the guys? Have you ever shown, okay, we have this strategy, great, we'll become $1 billion. How do you constantly reinforce future and their role in future? If you keep on doing it, it'll happen. But if you don't do it well, you're doomed. So constantly in your function, in your department, in the organization as a whole, reinforce future, restate the future. What is the future? If you do it once a year, it's not enough. To me, it has to be done within the groups of 50, at least once in 15 days. And you don't need to do it through a communication. You have to figure out how innovatively to do it. One-on-one meetings, but constantly reinforcing the future periodically really helps in becoming the organization. Hey, we have to be 1 billion. We are not there yet. You understand what the magical power it has? Or we have to become the best employer in the world. We are not there yet. Yeah? And you have to constantly show the future. The last one will seem very trivial and some of the things which is basic, but reward collaborators. People who collaborate and cooperate have to be rewarded extensively. If you encourage individual stars and you keep on rewarding individual stars against the people who collaborate and work with each other, you will not get an agile organization, you will get silo working. And the detrimental things, we talked about silo working, we talked about duplicate work, we talked about slow decision making in too many meetings, right? They will all be, you will always have this if you don't reward. Rewarding means talking about them, encouraging them, actually doing the R&R that we do so beautifully. But more than that, the promotions, the increments. So yesterday I was in a talent management discussion for the finance function. And we had these stars laid out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and we ranked all our stars, and we did the 9-box grid that we normally do. And then I asked a question, which one of these people actually cooperate with the peers? And suddenly the list almost got inverted. You understand? So we were not even talking about, we were talking of delivery. We were not talking of cooperation. If in a finance function, if let's say a business finance doesn't cooperate with costing, doesn't cooperate with treasury, do you know where you will go? You'll not even make profits. In finance, we think cooperation is not important, but it's so important. And my CFO, I think he loved that we could turn the list upside down. So what we did, we started rewarding the people. And it's not even rewarding. The list is known to us, but it'll decide their growth, it'll decide their promotion, so on and so forth. Right. Now, how to do all this? Is there a magic solution for this? Or it's very easy to say, no, let's do this, let's do this. I don't have a magic solution. And honestly, I, as other parts of all of you and all other organizations, struggle with it. The first thing is to get the principles right. If you don't, and I always say this, that if you don't have theory and concept right, your solution is not going to work, right? No matter. Second is to have the context of the organization in mind. For example, who's the wealth creator in your organization? Like if I were to talk about Dr. Reddy's, where I come from, who's the wealth creator? 90% of the wealth is coming from R&D, right? Or in an auto industry, where I was working before, the wealth is coming from the styling department. You will first look at the style of the car before buying a car. You look at the engine and the quality later, it's a hygiene. What is the differentiates is how the car looks, right? Or how the brand is promoted. So the wealth creators in the organization you have to know who creates the wealth in the context of the organization before even you want to simplify the organization. For example, you can simplify the sales but have a complicated R&D. There's no way that you'll get your products launched on time. Even in simplifying sales, you have to start where the money comes from, where you get maximum buck for your work. I think the thing is that the first way to look at it, and I'll give a couple of examples. Gaurav, how much time I have? It's done. Okay, sorry. First example is to look into the performance issues. What performance issues are you facing and the gaps? That's a good starting point. Don't try to boil the ocean. Just take a small part. Try to work with the small part and make all the difference. I think the second thing that works very well, if you start tracking performance on a regular basis. When I say performance, don't track the goal sheet. Track the output, track the outcome. So thank you so much, Sujay, and everybody else for the time that you've given. I didn't even know when 17 minutes were up. Thank you so much, and thanks a lot for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Namrata.